Okay, so welcome to your Yin class tonight. So we had requests for hips, neck, and chest openers. Beautiful. So we're gonna start today's practice on our back. You will need props. So those of you with yoga blocks or bolsters, you can definitely use those. So bolster being that yoga pillow. If you're using a block, you'll just need one of them for your supported bridge. And if you're not using a block, you can take two pillows or even a pillow folded up. And the idea with where you're starting is it's gonna land right underneath your sacrum. So your lower back, think the back of your hip bone. So about just underneath the vertebra there. So to come into this pose, you'll lay yourself down with your feet planted. And then when you feel steady, pick up your hips and just slide your prop underneath. So for some of you, that might be pillows. Again, some might be a bolster, or it could be a yoga block. Okay. There's a couple of options with the legs, depending on how this feels in your lower back. So you can keep your feet planted as they are. You're welcome to extend out your legs, keeping the legs long. Or you can always come somewhere in between there. So feet could be planted, but a little bit longer. To make sure that your lower back is getting some length in it, if you take your hands onto your belly with your fingertips on your hips and thumbs about your rib cage, just feel like your hip bones are pulling up towards your ribs. So there's a slight pelvic tuck. So you're looking to take that arch out of your low back rather than overextending the spine. Okay. So it might take a moment to get comfortable in the shape of supported bridge. Notice where your hands have landed and if that's where you want your hands to land, or do you need to take any additional movement? So hands can be down beside you, over your belly, overhead. Might be nice just to rock your head side to side a couple of times, really rooting down into the ground and eventually just finding stillness. Start to notice the movement of your breath and how simple that next breath comes. That each breath is a moment to shift your day, to shift your inner experience, to shift away from whatever isn't serving you, and to shift into what is. This pose that we are beginning our practice with offers us space before these major shifts to ground, to allow the world to move around us as we just pause. Feel either the backs of your heels if your legs are extended, or the soles of your feet rest heavier onto your mat or onto the earth. Feel the backs of your hips, your sacrum rest heavy onto whatever is beneath it, whatever prop you've chosen. And notice how the earth supports you. That you don't have to worry about lifting your body up, that it's okay to sink down. And as you push further down into the mat, into the earth, that support will push back with equal pressure. find your shoulder blades and allow them to create a deeper imprint, like you're sinking through the surface beneath you. Can you allow your entire body to become heavy? And as you do so, can you also allow your entire body to become light of the burden of having to be strong? Feel your muscles release any tension that they're still carrying. Feel your chest rise without any hindrance, without any stickiness as you inhale. And then invite in the heaviness, the grounding as you exhale. And notice your capacity to be both heavy and grounded, but light and soft. Feel how connected you are to your entire body as you've only just taken these first few steps into the beginning of this practice. You might notice some aches or pains or discomfort. You may notice some areas releasing, creating more space. As we start this beginning, it's really important to find this connection and feel supported before we go any further. So that as we work through some of these harder steps of this journey or more challenging ones, we know throughout this next hour together that we are supported, that we are lifted, and that we have the ability to be both sides of the spectrum. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fully soft or fully strong. That you can be a beautiful balance of the two. Gently, if your legs are extended out, start to slide your heels up, planting your feet. And then one at a time, take your knees into your chest. Hands will wrap around tops of your shins or backs of your hamstrings. If you are on a block, you might have to just shift yourself to make this a little more comfortable. Just allow your knees to fall into your chest, giving yourself a hug. If it feels okay to rock side to side, you're welcome to, if that feels like a nice massage for your low back. And then gently you can release a grip of your hands and plant your feet onto the earth again. Pick up your hips like we started and release your prop out from under. And slowly lower your lower spine to the earth. Extend out your legs and take a mini shavasana for a moment. Allowing your spine to come back to a neutral shape. Feel how your breath has continued to move you through these last few minutes. Let any tension or sensation release. Slowly make your way to your right hand side, rolling over top of your head. Head can be cradled into your right bicep or upper arm. And just take a moment to pause and consider, what do you want to bring with you on this journey tonight? What do you want to pack in your bag for the next 45 to 50 minutes? And perhaps, what do you need to leave behind? Once you have the answer to that question, you can gently begin to press yourself up and start to make a little bit more movement. So you can come to the top of your mat. I'll face the camera and just find a comfortable seat. So this could be cross-legged. You can extend your legs out, butterfly, or sit on your shins. You may also take a pillow if that feels better to sit on, to just lift your hips a little bit, or a block. So take your time to just begin to settle into a comfortable seat. And just starting to embrace some movement. Hands rest onto your thighs or your knees. Gently tip your chin towards your chest. On an inhale breath, trace your chin over towards your right shoulder and begin to lift your chin up towards the ceiling. And on an exhale breath, trace your chin the same way that it just came back towards your heart. And inhale to the other side. Just taking many half circles with your head. Allow your head to hang heavy. Move nice and slow with your breath. Just start to awaken your awareness into the upper parts of your shoulders, side of your neck. I always forget how wonderful it feels to just loosen out the neck muscles. And so allow this to be nourishing. Rather than trying to force anything, that this should just feel like a gentle release. The next time that your right ear comes over to your right shoulder, you can just pause. Optional, you can always take your left or your right hand onto the opposite side of your head. The right ear to right shoulder, right hand to the left side of your head. That'll just create a little bit more intensity in the opening. Optional to pick up your left hand and then press your left hand away from you. Just play with straightening out that arm. Now the arm doesn't have to be straight. You will probably have a soft bend in the elbow, but you should feel a sensation down the side of the neck and into the upper part of the shoulder. Find your breath through the sensation. That even on these moments of the journey where we feel stuck or rigid, our breath is guiding us through. Can you fall into this rhythm of breath in and breath out, even amidst any of the thoughts that might have started to boil up to the surface? And with each exhale, just letting that thought go, creating space for the next one to come in. Essentially a new beginning of thought. If your left arm is still extended out, you can gently release that hand onto your thigh. You slide your right hand towards your right cheek and just pick up your head back through center. So you don't have to use the muscles of your neck. Gently release your right hand down. Roll out the shoulders once or twice. And then finding the other side. This time left ear pours over to your left shoulder. You know, it's only optional to take your left hand to the right side of your head. If that feels too much, just leave it down. That's totally fine. Optional as well to pick up the right hand and just begin to press your palm away from you. Just to a point where you feel sensation, there's no pain, no tension. Just a lengthening through the side of the neck and the head. Close down your eyes. Acknowledge what you're experiencing in this moment, rather than trying to press your foot on the gas and speed ahead. Just simply sit with these sensations, even some of the discomfort, and breathe. This practice is not meant to always be comfortable, that there will always be moments of ups and downs. And so just embracing if this is one of those moments, how can you show up for yourself right now? How can you bring along those things that you packed for this journey in this moment? If your right arm is extended out, just gently release your hand back in. Slide your left hand to your left cheek and press your gaze up through center. Just gently begin to tuck your chin to your chest, lengthen out the back of your neck. Option to pause here, or you can interlace your hands to the back of your head and just drop your elbows down beside your ears. Make sure that you're not pulling or yanking. Your hands are just resting heavy. Shoulders slide down your back. And simply take 5 full breaths. Feel your chest rise up towards your chin. And then exhale, ground. Feel that connection to the earth. Inhale, there might be a lightness. And exhale, heaviness. Follow this rhythm. And gently, you can release the grips of your fingertips. Allow your hands to float onto your knees or thighs. And just lift your head up through center. Gently slide your hands forward, knee into a tabletop shape. Shoulders over top of wrists, hips over top of knees. Adding into a little bit more movement before we really slow down to stillness, just start to move your spine. So yin is typically about the pauses of poses, about taking time to just sit and be as you are. But often at the end of our day, there's a lot that's gone on, and there can be a lot that we're storing in our tissues or a lot of tension. And so this movement at the start of tonight's practice is just to flush some of that stale tension or energy or frustration out, so that as we sit in the pauses, it's one less obstacle that we need to move through. So we'll take about 3 or 4 more breaths. If you need more time to just shift and move into any creaky areas, you're welcome to take an extra few breaths and meet whenever you're ready. Otherwise, begin to bring your big toes together to touch, knees spread wide. Sit your hips back to your heels. Now, those of you who want a more restorative pose, you can always grab pillows, your bolster, and place it under your chest and kind of wrap like you're in a hug. This can also be done with pillows. You can take pillows for your head to land on. Those of you that find your knees get quite tight in child's pose can always take pillows behind your knees for your hamstrings to land on, and it'll just give that joint a little bit more support. Hands can walk out in front, or if there's any other variation, hands back or a prayer. You're welcome to play with this pose and just make it what you need your child's pose to be today. Remember that this is a practice of length and of time. So it's not necessary to come into the pose right from breath one. You can take as much time as you need to readjust, to shift. You can even come out of the pose at any point if it feels too deep or too much. Perhaps even reminding yourself of why you showed up tonight is a good indicator of the path you need to take, of what that next breath will be and the one after that. Not needing to have all of the answers, but simply just taking this one breath at a time. Notice your relationship with these pauses. If this is uncomfortable, know that the pause is really where the magic begins. Where you sit with the discomfort, the thoughts, the sensations. And it's in that time spent sitting with all of the sometimes random things that come up that we start to carve out that path forward. With more clarity and a little bit more knowing. As you come into the last little bit of this pause, notice what this experience has brought you to move forward into the next pose with. That each moment is a lesson, an opportunity to reset or shift or stay the course. But the present moment allows us the space to realign. Let go of what isn't serving you. Embrace what is. Gently begin to peel your body away from your mat. Coming back to your tabletop. Notice if there's any urges to shift. You're always welcome to respond and take those. Shifting hips forward, back, side to side. And one of my favorite ways to come out of child's pose is to meet in down dog. So whenever you're ready, tuck your toes, float your hips up to the sky, and just begin to melt your heels to the earth. Optional to bring in some movement, pedaling out your feet if that feels good. Sometimes there's still some lingering tension in the legs. And then looking forward from your downward facing dog, tippy toe your way to the top of your mat until you come into a fold, dangling pose. Take a really deep bend into your knees so that your belly rests onto your thighs. Instead of having the legs straight and just hanging kind of like a zombie, you want to feel supported. So as best as you can, take that deep bend. And then you can always add a prop if you need to place your hands onto something, but you can always just reach for opposite elbows, sway your body as well. This pose is less about the hamstring focus and the backs of the legs as it is about the decompression of the spine. So tuck your chin to your chest. Let your head hang heavy and just feel the opportunity to sway. Your body naturally might move forward or back or side to side. Just notice the freedom in this ability to be in flux. To not be so rigid, to really be loose and free and graceful. And so often when we started a beginning, we've already created rigidity of how it's going to look or how we expect that journey to go. And so in this pose of grace, can you let go of any expectations that you've been placing on yourself this week? Can you release any rigidity that you're holding in your physical body? And just allow all of that tension to spill off of your spine towards your shoulders, and then onto your mat. That even in this pause, it's okay to find those tiny shifts and tiny movements. At any point you are feeling a little dizzy or lightheaded, come back down to child's pose. We're just going to be here for about 1 more minute or so. So not too long, just about 8 more breaths. Notice the lengthening of the backs of the legs, even with knees bent, that you do still get some opening. Feel your head draw heavier towards the floor. With each inhale breath, creating some space between the vertebra of your spine. And with each exhale, your belly resting heavier towards your thighs. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then on your next exhale, bend so deeply into your knees that you can place your hands towards the mat. And then one at a time, step your knees back to come into tabletop. Walk your knees together and big toes together. And then just sit your hips back onto your heels. Pause for a moment. If that feels lightheaded, you can always take your forehead to the ground in a child's pose with knees together. If this is a lot for your knees, you can always sit onto a pillow. Notice the sensation in the backs of your legs, releasing. Gently make your way back to tabletop. Slide your right towards your right wrist. And then scoop your right ankle towards the left side of your mat. Or swan, or what you might know as pigeon. So right knee behind your right wrist, right ankle just towards the left side of your mat. Start to slowly extend your left toes back behind you, straightening out that leg. And then walk your hands up towards your hips. So you're in an upright variation. All right. Now check in that your toes line up with your hip and your toes aren't somewhere off to the side. In pigeon, you want the hips square. Now, if this doesn't feel good for your knees, a really nice alternative is deer. And you'll just sit onto your front hip and scoop your back knee around so that both knees are bent. Whenever you're ready, you're welcome to just begin to fold forward, belly and then heart, and then maybe head coming down. I always suggest in your pigeon to support your forehead with a block or a pillow so that you can continue to release tension in the back of the head and neck. If it feels like you're falling over to your right hip, you can always scoop a pillow underneath that hip as well, just to keep it lifted. And always optional to fold over top of a pillow as well. So your pillows, your props, your blocks are essentially used to bridge the gaps of your body and the earth so that the force of gravity is a little bit more gentle combined with the weight of our body. Notice now where any tension has started to build. And can you just reset by taking a breath? Soften into that area as you exhale. And maybe you shift your attention elsewhere in the body. This is often the most challenging part of Yin, to let go of the control of time and to learn to just simply be until guided out of that place. Really, it's a metaphor for life. We think we're in control of our lives, but there are so many things that happen outside of our control. And sometimes the only thing that we can do is just simply stop fighting. Stop fixing. Stop looking for an answer and just breathe. And trust that this time spent in the wait or the uncertainty, the pause, is creating whatever you need for what's ahead. Unwind any tension that has started to build again. and reset as many times as you need. And just take this breath by breath. If you have laid all the way down, just slowly start to peel yourself away from your mat. If you have a block underneath your hip, you can pick that up and out. A couple of options. Pressing into your hands, you can slide back to tabletop, right knee back, or you can knee into down dog. That can feel nice for the backs of the legs. You can always come to a child's pose and add in any movement that feels good. There's no right or wrong. Switching to the other side whenever you're ready. From down dog, you can just lower your knees to tabletop. And then this time your left knee slides towards your left wrist and scoop your left heel to the opposite side of your mat at a comfortable angle. Untuck your right toes and start to slide that foot back, sinking your hips towards the ground. Take a moment to pause upright and just make sure your hips are square, that there's no pulling on either knee. And if you do feel that pulling, even if you didn't on the first side, you can always come to deer, bending both knees, weight onto your front hip, and just folding forward. Make sure that wherever you have landed is comfortable and that you're not at 100% of your pose, in knowing that you're going to be here for a while. That this really is a marathon and it's not a sprint. And so give yourself the time to just explore and be present and sit with the sensation rather than feeling overwhelmed when we've been in this pose past a minute or two. Soften into the backs of your shoulders. Allow your shoulder blades to slide in towards one another. Let your cheek or your forehead rest heavy. Back to your breath as often as you need that reminder that you are not stuck in this pause. That each breath is important. Notice if there's any urgency to shift away from where you are. Can you just sit with that urgency for a moment? Notice it fade. We're so used to being fast and doing things all the time that we forget it's okay to just pause. Sink into the tension, the discomfort. Soften those spaces and take 3 more breaths. Take your time resisting that urge to snap out of this place. Just slowly bring yourself back up. This time you'll shift over to your front hip. Scoop up your back knee and bring it around and in front. Walking your hands back, place your feet out wide. Just gently drop your knees over to the left and over to the right. Find your props once again. So you can use pillows. 2 pillows stacked is usually good, or you can use blocks or a bolster. So I'll show all of the ways, and then you can choose which one will work for you. Supported fish pose. You're gonna lay back onto pillows if you're using them, so that the back of your heart is supported, and then your head will rest against the ground with your throat open. Arms can come out wide to a T shape or can cactus or diamond shape. If you're using your blocks, you'll need both blocks. One can come horizontally across your mat on the long, skinny edge, and then the other one on the short, skinny edge, the highest level. So the middle level and the highest level. And you'll just drape yourself back so that about your bra line area will come onto the first block and then head onto the highest block. Arms can come out wide. Final option is you can use your blocks and your bolster to create a ramp for your body to rest on. So you'll notice that in all of these poses, your chest and heart are lifted. Feet can stay planted, or it might feel nice to extend your legs out wide. Optional to bring the soles of your feet together and knees lay out to the side. Wherever you've landed, just make sure that your palms face up. Soften your shoulders away from your ears. Beautiful. And just allow your body to rest heavy onto your prop. Now, depending how high your prop is underneath you, you may have more tension or you may have less if your prop isn't very high. Try not to focus on depth. Just focus on breathing fully into your rib cage, allowing your chest to rise up. That's creating the space to open your chest. And then exhale, release, and just let yourself rest heavy. Let go of the notion of how much work or how open this has to be, or what it has to feel like. And can you simply just embrace what this moment is offering you? Sometimes this pause is offering us space to just be with our thoughts. Sometimes it's offering us space to let go of something we know we've been holding for far too long. The pause can be clarity, or it can be nourishment. Let go of your attachment to the physical posture and just simply notice the experience of being. Sometimes this space that you have with yourself is more powerful than any book or answer or guide could be. That this space becomes that new beginning into the next breath. Before we fully move out of this shape, let's take a little bit of movement to lengthen out the neck one more time. Reach through your right fingertips like you're reaching for something out to the side, palm still facing up, and then press the back of your hand into the ground. Elbow will probably lift up. Start to take your chin over to the left side and take 3 full breaths. Continue to reach through your right fingertips. Then on your next inhale breath, gather your chin up through center and soften into your right elbow. You can keep a soft bend. Extend your left fingertips out long. Press through the back of your left hand. And then tip your right chin to your right shoulder. And take 3 full breaths. Feel the length down the outer edge of your arm. The extra little bit of space you're creating. And then gently you can bring your elbow back in and chin up through center. Take your time to roll yourself over to either side, it doesn't matter. And release your props out from underneath you so that you can land onto your back once again. Keep your props handy. You may want them for the next pose. Once you come onto your back, you can bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice big hug. Maybe a gentle rock side to side. And then gently you can begin to release the soles of your feet down. Wash your knees to the left and to the right. Just take out any final tension into your hips. And then we'll set up for Shavasana. And why I said keep your props handy is if you have a pretty hard floor, a pillow can always be nice underneath the back of your head. If you want to support your low back, you can always take pillows underneath your knees as well, or your blocks or bolster can come underneath your knees, just to take some of that tension out of the low back. Bring a blanket or a sweater, anything that will just make you feel comfortable in this shape. And then notice where you've landed comparatively to where you started this practice. That we've spent almost an hour together and seemingly haven't done all that much. But can you feel the subtlest of shifts that have happened? The subtlest of beginnings that have started to bloom. Could be the beginning of hope for a new day, of faith or trust in yourself or others. Maybe the sprinkling of more love or acceptance of self. Or perhaps it's more about the release and the endings that have happened. The tension that is melted away. The things that didn't go according to plan today, carrying less weight. Notice how by simply being with yourself and taking time to listen and sit in the pause, that there are things that have shifted. This is just one leg of your journey that you have been on for years and years. But that doesn't mean that you can't pause or pull off to the side of the road, or that you can't take a left or a right and switch directions. I'll leave you here for just a few moments to embrace perhaps whatever seeds you have planted tonight, and to stop watering the ones that you need to not grow any longer. And I'll bring you out of Shavasana in just a little bit. So don't worry about time. Allow your body to just melt into this unending space for a moment. Gently start to bring some awareness back to your breath. Honor the ending of this practice by not rushing through it. If you need to stay on your back to close off, or you're comfortable as you are, please just stay there. If you are ready to come to seated to close off, you're welcome to do so, but just make sure you're moving slowly, taking your time, allowing all of the ease you brought into your body to linger, rather than jumping back into our old habits or patterns. When you do make your way to your seat, for those of you moving, you can just gently, instead of hands to heart center, interlace your hands to the webbing. So you create a shape like this and just place your hands onto your heart and humble your chin to your chest. So this mudra or hand gesture, it's one of my favorites because you can feel that strength between the interlacing of your fingers. And the mudra is called the unbreakable. And you can feel that no matter what happens, these ups and downs or mountains or valleys that we have to travel, that there will always be this unbreakable trust and bond with self. And so just honoring that here, that even if the start of this week didn't go as you had planned or had wanted, or if any subsequent weeks turn out that way, just come back to this unbreakable trust that you will be okay. So much love and so much gratitude for each of you for showing up today and always, from the bottom of my heart. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to stay on if you have any questions or you